You were born in Germany, where even before your first conscious memories, everything has already been decided for you. What to call right, whom to call an enemy, and what voice you're supposed to use when you speak about the future. The adults around you try not to stand out. One extra question can become one extra problem. You learn that before you learn arithmetic. From childhood, the world around you is packed with signs of belonging. Flags on facades, portraits on walls, slogans at school. They don't just plant an idea in you, they hand you a ritual. The greeting, the intonation, the required words. Even everyday details become politics. How you say hello, what hangs in the classroom, what songs you sing in formation. In the evenings at home, the radio goes on. Almost no one has a television, yet there is a voice that enters your apartment without knocking. Cheap sets like the Volksempfänger make sure the right news sounds the same in every home. The broadcasts repeat the same message in different wording, and in the cinema, before the main film they run the Wochenschau, short newsreels where victories always look closer than reality. You're still a child, but you already understand. What matters here isn't facts, it's certainty. You're allowed not to know, you're not allowed to doubt. Over time, you're pulled into youth organizations. At first it looks like a game, a uniform, a badge, a belt, drill. Then it turns into a system that polishes your character to a standard template. In age-based groups, you're taught to march, to navigate, to take gear apart and put it back together, to endure cold and to stop asking questions. You watch the ones around you who try to be exemplary. They shout the slogans louder, hold formation more precisely, and report incorrect conversations more eagerly. By the middle of the war, the organization increasingly becomes a reserve. Teenagers can be used in air defense as Flakhelfer, in communications and in clearing rubble after raids. Childhood doesn't end with one event. It ends through the gradual removal of time to simply live. And then the war enters your daily life the way major disasters do. Not heroically, but through a list. Ration cards, quotas, queues, substitutions. Coffee becomes a surrogate. Fat becomes scarce, cloth becomes valuable. Wool socks and warm underwear are discussed more seriously than movies. You learn to economize. Propaganda even runs stories about coal thieves and the need to save fuel, because freezing in winter is easier than losing beautifully. You see the rhythm of the streets change. Lights are masked, windows are blacked out, nights become quieter, sirens tear through day and night. An air raid warning isn't romantic. It's a descent into a basement. The smell of damp. Strangers' shoulders holding up the silence. After raids, there are fragments, glass underfoot, charred beams. Children are sometimes sent out of cities under evacuation programs like Kinderland für Schickung, not as an adventure, but as an attempt to pull them out of the fire. And the longer the war drags on, the more often triumphant words play against a backdrop of empty shop windows and grey faces. At the same time, the city becomes part of a vast production machine. Factories switch to military orders, shifts grow longer, exhaustion becomes normal. You see foreign workers, people who are not there by choice. Forced labor is built into the economy as if it were an ordinary resource. Separate barracks, guards, smaller rations, longer hours. Nearby there are Eastern workers, countries. Newspapers disguise it with words like necessity, but in real life it looks like human beings being worn down into a mechanism. By 1943, the regime starts talking about total war and industry tightens control. Attempts to rationalize production under spear, dispersal of workshops after bombings, and endless race for metal and fuel. You learn one simple thing. War is not only the front, it's also schedules, quotas, and other people's work under coercion. Sooner or later, your turn comes. The draft notice doesn't feel like a climax. It feels like a formality people fear, but also expect. In the barracks, you stop being someone's son and become a unit of accounting. You're woken before dawn, driven by drill commands, made to polish your boots not for beauty but to build the habit of obedience. Gear is issued by the list: helmet, belt, pouches, mess tin, the Seltban, shelter half, entrenching tool, gas mask. You learn not just to shoot, you learn to execute commands automatically. Gas alarms in training can become routine. You have seconds to get the mask on because in war later means too late. Discipline has a simple purpose here: control. A mistake isn't experience, it's an offense. Punishment can be small and humiliating, or it can be the kind meant to be seen by everyone. You quickly start hearing two voices: the sergeant's voice that keeps order, and the voice of the system that demands people have no inner resistance left. At the same time, you meet the other side of war, the paper side. Everyone has documents, a sold book with stamps, numbers, issue lists, ammunition accounting, casualty reports. Letters go through the felt post and are censored. Even your words home become part of control. You notice that sometimes what matters isn't what happened, but how it will be written down. A few lines in a report, and someone gets an investigation, someone gets leave, someone gets punished. Staff officers live in tables because the chaos of the front has to be held together by something. When you're pushed closer to the front, slogans finally collide with the logistics. War stops being a picture and becomes a route. Station, unloading, depot, transfer, unloading, again. You see how dependent. The army is on things posters never show: rails, wheels, fuel trucks, workshops, repair kits. And you learn a fact that breaks many people's morale. Even in a motorized army, a huge share of transport still runs on horses and wagons. Because there aren't enough trucks, roads are wrecked and fuel is rationed. On the Eastern Front, another obstacle is added: distances and weather. Autumn mud season turns roads into a viscous mass where vehicles bog down and wear out faster than they can be repaired. Differences in rail gauge force transshipment at hubs. Bleeding time and manpower. And then there's fuel, the constant nerve. As the war goes on, you hear more talk about short deliveries, about depots emptying, about aviation and synthetic fuel plants being bombed. You're not a strategist, but you already understand. An order can demand an advance, and the jerrycan can answer, nothing to go with. The front meets you, not with non-stop firing, but with a daily grind that erases a person slowly. You sleep in fragments, often in your boots, because otherwise you won't get them onto swollen feet in the morning. You eat quickly and without taste, just to finish before something starts. Your hot food sometimes arrives from the field kitchen the soldiers call the gulash kanone, if it gets through at all. In your pockets there may be an emergency ration, an iron portion, which you're forbidden to touch without orders. You clean your weapon, not out of respect for metal, but because mud and frost can make it useless. Lice aren't a joke here. They're background noise. They live in seams, hair, blankets. Periodic delousing points and heat-treating clothing are a luxury you don't always get. Small wounds fester because sanitation is improvised, water is questionable, and your hands are always cold. There is no beautiful toughness here, only the habit of enduring when there's nothing left to endure. Fear is different too. It isn't loud. It sits in your stomach during artillery fire when the ground shakes and you can't tell whether your trench will hold. It comes at night when you hear footsteps in the dark and don't know whether they're yours or not. It grows with fatigue. A tired brain makes more mistakes, and a mistake here isn't a bad grade. The system holds you not only through orders but through punishment. There's the Feldgendarmerie, the chain dogs who catch stragglers, check papers, hunt unauthorized absences. There are tribunals, penal units, demonstrative measures so the rest don't start thinking they can just leave. And you see how discipline sometimes turns into fear of your own side, stronger than fear of the enemy. Against that, people look for short ways not to collapse. Some cling to routine, some to cynical humor, some to a letter from home raid, until the paper thins. And sooner or later, a fragment explodes nearby, and the world narrows to pain and breath. Medics work fast and rough. Tenderness is a luxury here. A tourniquet, a dressing, morphine if there is any, clipped commands. You or your comrades might be carried on a shelter half because there aren't enough stretchers. Evacuation is a chain where each link depends on roads and time. Aid post, field infirmary, ambulance truck, sometimes a hospital train. A lazaretzug. In the hospital, you see war as a conveyor. Amputations, infection, shock, people too weak even to scream. Sulfonamides are often used, no miracle, but a chance. Mental breakdowns and the empty stare are officially disliked as diagnoses. It's easier to punish weakness than to treat it. If you're transferred to occupied areas, the war changes shape. There's less constant shelling, but more power over other people's lives, and more temptation to turn a person into an object. Commandants, offices, passes, checks, curfews. In towns and villages, there are roundups, requisitions, the search for suspects. It doesn't look like a frontline battle. It looks like control. Lists, stamps, seals escorted by rifles. You see bureaucracy and violence fused together. Paper grants the right to break a door, and the stamp turns violence into something official. Then orders appear about bandit fighting, Bandenbekämpfung. On paper, it's about securing lines of communication. In reality, it too often becomes terror against civilians. Suspicion becomes a pretext, and anything can become suspicion. A leaflet found, foreign shoes, a light at night, silence during interrogation. They may tell you it's not war, but you see the outcome. Burned houses, people taken away and not returned, fear hanging over streets thicker than fog, and here you see most clearly how the system removes responsibility. Orders are orders becomes a universal amnesty for the conscience. Somewhere along your service, you start noticing that some rise faster than others. Doesn't look like a heroic ladder. It looks like the selection of the convenient. At the lowest level, promotion is often produced by the meat grinder itself. There aren't enough leaders, and the man who was a private yesterday commands a squad tomorrow simply because the rest are dead or gone. But the higher you go, the less bravery matters, and the more the apparatus wants reliability. Who writes reports without extra detail? Who keeps people obedient? Who doesn't ask questions? Who can speak in the correct phrases? Party loyalty, recommendations, connections, demonstrative, ideological purity, all of it becomes a filter. And you notice something worse. The closer you get to the center of power, the more often careers are accelerated by willingness to participate in repressive practices and to look away from crimes. This isn't a path to glory. It's a path to complicity that can outwardly resemble success. The closer the war gets to its end, the harder is to maintain the appearance of control. Propaganda gets louder because reality screams louder. In the rear, ruins and shortages. At the front, retreat and attempts to hold at any cost. Fuel vanishes, equipment sits without parts. Replacements arrive less trained. Men from the Volkssturm appear, old men and teenagers, because there is no one else left to take. On the roads are columns of refugees, carts piled with belongings, people who don't know where to go. Only that staying is impossible. You watch some people change their tone in a hurry. Yesterday they were certain, today they're careful. Some burn papers, some hide badges, some rewrite their own histories as if they had always just worked and known nothing. But memory isn't an archive you can burn. The smell of basements during raids, grime on your hands, strangers' eyes on occupied streets, cold that cuts to the bone, and orders after which you can't return to who you were. Those things stay inside you. You were born into a system that trained you not to think out loud. You grew up in a system that trained you to obey. And war, in the end, showed its real shape. Not a legend and not a poster, but daily mechanics. Discipline, logistics, shortages, fear, exhaustion, bureaucracy, medicine as a conveyor, and violence as a method of rule. When the shooting stops, the silence doesn't bring relief right away. It simply leaves you alone with what was done and what was seen, without music, without slogans, and without excuses.